Join us on Now We Consume. Take in the knowledge, take in the laughs, indulge in the topics with us. The Now We Consume podcast will take you through the parts of your day you normally dread. Why suffer through the existential crisis of life alone when you can do it with us? And now we consume.
This is not meant to be a conspiracy episode or podcast, but we may cover some topics that dance that line like a toddler dances on their mother's last nerve. This podcast is rated I, for immature audiences only.
Welcome back to the Now We Consume podcast. I'm your host, Pip, here as always with my co-host.
Hello, it's Gibbs.
It's Gibbs. And tonight, we've got a topic that we've been wanting to cover for a little bit. We've been kind of going back and forth on this one. Slightly tinfoil hatty, slightly more weighted towards the information side. We're going to be talking about the now infamous Mandalay Bay shooting that happened back in 2017. The amount of evidence that came out about that whole incident. Gibbs and I just think that it doesn't quite add up, and we're going to kind of discuss some of the ins and outs of the entire situation. But before we get started down that rabbit hole, I want to give a shout out to my son, Josh. I know he listens. He's a fan of the podcast. Today is his birthday. He is turning 18. So welcome to the misery of adulthood.
Happy birthday.
So yes, happy birthday to him. So Gibbs, I know this is the one that you've kind of had some tight pants for a little bit. So if you would like
idea.
If you would like to take the reins, my friend, go ahead.
Absolutely. So this was something that happened on October 1st, 2017. This was a very big event politically, what happened, as well as it was such a serious thing that happened with the loss of life and the amount of people that were injured. I'm going to go into the details in a second, but the reason why I wanted to cover this is really during Trump's first presidency, this really set the stage for a lot of things that came with politically and gun rights and things like that. And it really set the stage for the politics around firearms that set the rest of his presidency. But even more importantly, this set various laws in effect. It changed the way Las Vegas handles certain laws. And it really made people question a lot of things because, as we discussed tonight, while there are a lot of facts we can talk about, there are still a lot of questions and a lot of things that the FBI, CIA, ATF, nobody will answer. And we've done some digging. I've been doing some digging for years on this. There are people online. We have those resources, and I have those links on our Discord. And we're also, you can just ask us and I can give them to you as well. But there are some people that have been dedicating years to this. I do want to shout out, there is, I can't seem to find it. It's the, if you look up the Las Vegas shooting map, the 2017 Las Vegas shooting map, there is an interactive map that shows everything that we talk about here tonight, or at least for the most part. It gives you timestamps at where it happened and what happened. It shows you live camera footage, police footage, everything else.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject.
Yeah.
It's vegasshootingmap.com is the link for that.
Thank you. I had it on here and I lost it. But I highly recommend that because that has been something that has been scrutinized for the last few years. And whoever did it has put in a lot of effort to make it make sense.
Yeah, they absolutely zaprudered the hell out of that list of resources.
Yeah. There's a lot of information there. But anyways, let's cover exactly what this is. In case for anybody that's not really that aware or doesn't remember that much, on October 1st, 2017, a mass shooting happened occurred when 64-year-old Stephen Paddock opened fire on a crowd attending the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival on the Las Vegas Strip in Nevada. He was on the 32nd floor suite in the Mandalay Bay Hotel. He fired more than 1,000 rounds, killing 60 people and wounding at least 413. Now, I want to go into kind of what the environment was, kind of what went down, and we're going to go things one step at a time. It's all going to culminate in the end, so just trust us. We have a process here. The big thing I want to talk about...
I usually culminate in the end.
Thank you. I sure hope you do, or else that's a waste of your time. But one of the weird things that was found here was the sheer list of firearms, ammunition, various equipment that was found inside the hotel.
Oh, that list is a shopping list, is what that is.
Well, you're hinting at something we're going to get to later, but the issue is just there is so much here. And again, with me, that's somebody that's like avid and like very into the firearm community and stuff like that, the Second Amendment stuff. Like this is a lot, and this is coming from a guy that has a lot. Like if I say it, that means it probably
you had a lot. You tragically lost all your firearms in a boating accident years ago.
I know it's such a shame. I'll never get the SS Minnow back. It was terrible. But I mean, we are talking. It was 24 firearms were found in the room. But with each firearm, a lot of them are using bump stocks. That's a big point here. We're going to describe how bump stock works and why there was legislation around it, why it was actually a total BS thing. But a lot of them had bump stocks, a lot of them with 100 round magazines, a lot of 50 round, 30 round mags, which again is pretty standard for those types of firearms. What was weird is he had a lot of the same type of firearm, though, which was very interesting. There was a lot of AR-15 style, so basically 223s. You had some AR-10s, which are 308s. Even had a couple of odd ones, like a couple of Smith & Wesson Airlights and a few other things, but it's mostly surrounding like 15 or 20 of almost the exact same type of firearm from a few different manufacturers. Now, what's also interesting is they had some of them had sights, some of them didn't, some of them had bipods, some of them had scopes and other things. It was all over the place. The only thing that was consistent was it was mostly 5.56/223 firearms. And not to mention, he had various different pistols on him and a lot of ammo on him as well. I believe there was one that had like 6,000 rounds or something like that on him that was separate from all the different magazines as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, here's a list of the other weird things he had. A blue plastic hose with a funnel, a fan, and a scuba mouthpiece. Surveillance cameras, baby monitors, a small sledgehammer, obviously a laptop. He has that surveillance camera monitors, a spotting scope, binoculars, various cartridge casings, cell phones, driver's license, his player card, a bunch of different mags, another 5,280 rounds or so in those. A handwritten note with distance and bullet drop calculations. Interesting. That we're going to touch on a little bit. And a bunch of cases and duffel bags and things. Now, let's look at this logically. Most of what he has there are long rifles, and I've looked quite a few of them up. Most of them, you got 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch barrels. You know, not many of them were what you would consider the PDW or concealed or even like pistol AR caliber. So they're all, or pistol AR size. So they're all relatively large. And moving 6,000 rounds of ammunition, while 6,000 rounds isn't like an arsenal worth, it's not small. So the question becomes, number one, I understand someone could move all of that equipment into a room without getting noticed. But that means there must have been some security measures taken in place. They must have had some people either working with him, or he took them in one at a time, or maybe special bags were made to do that, and that was never released by the FBI or the ATF.
So on that, I remember seeing some security footage where he actually had the hotel staff helping him with his bags and suitcases several trips through several days, lugging all that shit on the carts. And I think there was one time they actually broke a wheel off one of the carts because it was so heavy.
How would that not be a clue? Like not to be like invasive, but if I rent a hotel and I see someone come up with like a couple of bags, all right, fine, they're traveling. Maybe two more bags. Oh, you know, they're traveling for the holidays. Maybe they're doing something extended. But if the bag weighs 80 to 100 pounds because they got, I don't know, 3,000 rounds of ammo in it.
So there's a popular range not far away from Vegas. Yeah. I think that was his excuse.
But I understand like going to the range and having some fun. I do that all the time. But who travels with that much equipment? Like at a range, they have a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people, yes, you bring your own ammunition typically, and yes, you bring your own firearms, but who the hell has so much stuff they need to stay at a hotel for the course of days to test stuff, unless those things aren't for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to slowly start leading this into, I think, one of the real reasons why this whole thing happened. But to sum it up, yeah, he had a ton of firearm stuff and other gear for someone that's supposedly staying, for somebody he is a known gambler. It just surprised me that nobody noticed anything. And granted, I know hotels, it's easy to kind of stay quiet, do whatever, but he was there for several days. No one seemed to figure that out, which, okay, I can let that one slide. No room service, no whatever. Fine. However, when you get into people reporting there were noises that happened up ahead of time, that he was acting a little funny the days before, they had some camera footage of him acting a little weird. I'm going to say weird because I really would like people to actually go and watch the video footage that's on there, that's on that map. But it does seem a little fishy that he could somehow make that happen without anybody noticing, which fine. Okay, I'm willing to let that happen. But then we get into the other half of the problem. That sledgehammer that I mentioned, the police have tried, well, really, I think it'd be the FBI in that case. They tried to break the window with that sledgehammer. Now, a fun fact about most hotels, they have shatterproof, or really, it's really basically, I can't use the word for it, but
why can't we? Why can't we?
Yeah, but certain.
Okay, so
you can't say offing yourself in the other way. That,
okay, so it's called anti-unaliving yourself glass.
Thank you. Yes, unaliving. That's the word I was looking for. We can't say the other one because technically on certain platforms that gets censored.
Oh, so wow.
Yes,
so much for free speech.
Well, we don't have that anymore. Yeah. Don't you love it? But that glass is very hard to destroy specifically for that reason. And from what the video that I saw, and from what I saw that sledgehammer was, and from what I've seen people try to replicate that, it is darn near impossible to do it with just a sledgehammer. Now, mind you, maybe it's possible. Now, why would that be of importance? Because during the shooting, he had that window open to shoot through. And I also remember correctly, I believe there was a balcony that was mentioned, but I don't think much happened on that, but it was mainly through the window.
Wait a minute.
Or there were a couple of windows.
Yep. Wasn't there a huge pile of glass in one of the pictures?
That is the other problem that we're getting to, is somehow when they broke the window, the glass did not all go out. Now, granted, there was some wind that day, but not enough wind to be able to blow it in. But that is another story that that one I still have to fully corroborate. I have heard from at least, I think it was a couple of sources that there was wind blowing that day, but not strong enough to do that. Because if it was like a 30-mile-an-hour wind, sure, if you break it, most of it will fall back in, sure, but no, that was not the case. Because if there was a strong wind that day, he would have been more all over the place. And you'll see in that map, you'll see where his shots were and where they landed and who got hit and what happened. You'll be able to kind of see that. And unfortunately, he kind of knew what he was doing. But anyways, so now we've established that he broke the window, which is not supposed to be able to be broken. He brought up 24 plus firearms and a bunch of gear and a ton of ammo up into the hotel without anybody noticing, which again, somehow.
Could he have shot out the window?
I guess, but then nobody reported that happening because I would assume, so let's assume something here. If he has to shoot out the window to get it to break, that means you would have heard a shot early on and you would have had to take the sledgehammer or something and move the glass. Because even though you put a hole through it, the glass still stays there. It's that thick tempered glass stuff. So he would still have to push it all out. And there was not, in any of the recordings I could see, a shot heard and then 10 or 20 seconds of him pushing the glass out and then going. Even from security cameras already looking at the building. He opened fire.
They don't have any recording of the window itself actually getting busted out.
I could not find any.
So there's no release recording.
It might be out there, but I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
I will be honest. As I spent about 3 or 4 hours or so going through everything, I have not spent the 20, 30 plus hours that some people have. I'll be honest. Maybe one of these days we'll do a follow-up on this one.
Okay.
But I think we're going to get most of the information here today. So anyways, we know he breaks the glass and he opens fire into this music festival. Now, one of the problems we have immediately, if you are somebody that's into firearms you will notice an issue. The media reported he was mainly using firearms that were using a bump stock. Now, how that works is very simple. It uses the recoil of the firearm to basically reset and load the next round, essentially. I'm very, very much making it easy here for people to understand, but it uses the recoil of the firearm to load the next round and for it then to move the firearm forward so that you could trigger the next one. It's a way of getting around fully automatic fire. It's a way of basically saying technically it's still per one pull of the trigger, it's semi-auto, but you let the recoil of the weapon kind of actuate it, essentially. Here's a problem. You're using recoil to induce a higher fire rate, therefore you are not in very much control of the firearm, or as much as you should be. It's not nearly as accurate. You are kind of, I'm not going to say you're kind of along for the ride, like you can still control it, but it's difficult with a bump stock to be very accurate on a fully automatic or even like a burst fire type of thing. Now, supposedly, he used bump stocks and several different rifles and moved from rifle to rifle to fire to this crowd from a bump stock. Now, knowing that not all firearms are exactly the same and not all ammunition is exactly the same, what you hear in the audio is an exact consistent rate of fire from these firearms. But in just my experience and from what I've looked up, from anyone that uses a bump stock, it is inconsistent.
Right.
Because it is based on recoil and based on human reactions. It's not mechanical. It is, but it's not mechanically limited rate of fire.
Yeah. And everybody that I know
So-
that's used one, it is insanely difficult to just pick it up and make it go. Like
Oh, yeah.
it takes like a lot of practice to get really good and get really consistent with it. But even so, you're not accurate with it. Like there is 0 degree of accuracy, especially at range.
And that's the problem is he was shooting at several hundred yards.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking in some cases of over 500 yards away. And when you're using rifles that even on a semi-automatic function are good for 200 to 300, let alone on a burst fire, in a bump stock, that's where some questions are raised to where I remember when this came out, and I even looked at some videos to look at it again. It sounds like a fully automatic firearm.
Yeah, at least the first initial bursts.
The first ones, they sound almost exactly like an M240 Bravo or an M249.
I was going to say it's a 249 is what it sounds like to me.
It sounds like the exact same fire rate. But I know there's the issue of because you have many tall buildings, you have reflections and other things. But the problem would be it would never be consistent if you're using a bump stock. And if you're adding in the sound reflections from other buildings, it would sound like the most inconsistent fire. Bang, 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 bang. It would sound like a backfiring car is what it really would sound like. But it doesn't.
Honestly, it would have sounded more like fireworks, I think.
That's a good point. I didn't think, yes, that's a great analogy. So, and it doesn't. In almost every video I've seen of any sustained fire, it sounds very well paced, very well managed. So, one of the things that came out from this, I know shift gears a little bit politically because we have more to touch on exactly, but the reason why I bring up the bump stocks is because of the bump stock ban that happened from this. Under Donald Trump's presidency, this is probably one of the things that he did that I very much disagreed with as a knee-jerk reaction to what happened here. They banned bump stocks. Now, the reality of it is up until this point, and since then, bump stocks haven't been really used in any sort of crimes, any sort of major anything. Why? Because really they were kind of a...
Novelty.
Thank you. That's a great word for it. A novelty. They were something that was fun. You go to the friends with the range, you stick a bump stock on one of them. It's fun. It's stupid, but it's not effective at all.
So
anybody... Sorry, you go.
On that, my AK... there is a belt loop trick that you can do.
Yes.
I've done that before. It's fun. I pumped out a 30-round magazine in about 5 or 6 seconds, I think. My rounds were all over the place, but I had a full auto AK, air quotes, while I was doing that. You can do, I believe, the same thing with an AR. I've never tried it with an AR.
You can.
So, I mean, you don't need a stock to do this.
No. It's a way of basically you resting the firearm so that when the recoil happens and you react and push it forward, it just triggers the next round. It's simple physics. But I don't know. I just have issues with the narrative of it was purely bump stocks that did this. They had to ban them. They went after them. And unfortunately, there were a lot of people that had to either turn them in or hide them. And the ATF went after people that had bump stocks. Manufacturers that manufactured them had to stop manufacturing. In the case of a couple of them, they had to shut down because they kind of were in like a niche market. That's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought it was right because really it was Steve Paddock that decided to do this.
I will never change my stance that a firearm is a tool no different than a hammer. Yeah. And it is no better or worse than the person using it.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, where you ban guns, then knives will be number one. And then if you ban knives, bats will be number one.
Mm-hmm.
If you ban those, then trucks and cars will be number one.
Yeah.
You'll never stop violent people from offending. I hate to say it, but
no,
it's the reality.
Because humans have been killing each other for far longer than firearms have been around. It's something that we unfortunately have gotten very good at over the centuries. And from as far back as when we decided, I can stab somebody. Now I want to stab somebody from way the hell over there. And we invented the bow and arrow.
Yep.
We went from sticks and stones to sharp sticks and better stones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the evolution of weaponry. There's some very good documentaries on that, by the way, on TV, various channels.
Oh, yeah.
Probably YouTube as well.
Oh, God, yeah. There's a ton of those. But, so we're at a point now where after a couple of months after this, they end up banning the bump stocks. They ban these kind of things. They went after people. Now, at this point, the media narrative is that, hey, this guy went up there with his intent was to do this. This was premeditated. Now, I want to go through the reasons why I have some issues with it. I don't know if this was as premeditated as people think. And this is where it gets a little tinfoil hatty, because I hate to say it, in terms of evidence, we can only talk about really Steve Paddock's kind of life history and kind of his work history, his life history, and what he did. But even then, besides that, in terms of facts, we're pretty much at the end of it where we know he was up there, he was firing a weapon, he had a bunch of weapons up there, a bunch of firearms up there, and by the time police got to him, he already passed away.
Allegedly.
Well, that's the thing, because this is the other problem I have. Now, I know there's been, since 2017, a lot of law enforcement and Secret Service have gotten way better at response times. But this guy was on the 32nd floor of one of the most heavily guarded and well-secured hotels in Las Vegas, if not the world, but probably Las Vegas anyway. SWAT didn't get there for 81 minutes. 81 minutes.
That's a chunk of time.
That is a crap ton of time. An hour and 20 minutes? Are you kidding me? I understand if it took them 15, 20 minutes to get there, especially, not for nothing, the police headquarters is like 10 minutes down the road. This hotel's right in the main strip. It's not like it was out in the boonies. We're like, all right, fine, it's an hour drive to get there. No. For some reason, and this is the reason I have not been able to figure out, is when Steve Paddock opened fire, it took them 81 minutes to get up to there, and they already found him dead. Because he had the cameras out there, he knew they were coming, so he shot himself. So, what was the reason? Why did it take them 81 minutes to get to him when they knew where he was? There was all these camera footage, all this evidence, and I understand if they had said, hey, we didn't know exactly which floor. Okay, sure. But 81 minutes to figure that out? Are you kidding me? I find that personally ridiculous. All it would take is one guy to go out there with a pair of binoculars and said, all right, if they're shooting here, that means they got to be somewhere visible from the outside of the building. They got to have eyesight. So you just take a pair of binoculars and look and say, oh, look, that one has glass out of it. That would make sense. And they could say, hey, have you guys seen any muzzle flashes or anything? They would have said, oh my God, yeah, it sounded like fireworks or something from over there. They would have said, great, just count the layers. Like, all right, it's roughly the 32nd floor because it's 32 flights up. I know I'm kind of trivializing it a little bit, but
there would have been some ways to rationalize and eliminate some information very quickly.
Yeah. But for some reason, and mind you, this police chief This police commissioner is a very important person that I'm going to bring up later. But this police commissioner, after this, was moved a few years later, and this commissioner did not really say much about what happened. And what's very interesting here is not only did they not say what happened, they would not give any motives. There were no manifestos or anything left. There was no nothing. And there was a suspicious lack of photos given to the public, considering everything that's described. Unfortunately, while we have some photos, we don't have a lot. When this should have photos everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
To have a penthouse suite, basically, up on the 32nd floor of one of the best hotels in Las Vegas, if not the country. With all that evidence and everything, you'd think there'd be photos up the walls. You'd think there'd be like 9,000 photos, because that's what they do. They take photos. Every single showcasing would have had to have its own photo. Like, not for nothing, but we should have thousands. And we don't. But anyways.
I have a very morbid question to ask.
Yes.
Is it possible to still rent out that room at Mandalay Bay? Because I know the hotel's still there.
I'm sure you can rent it out. I mean, whether either of us can afford it is a different story, but I bet we could.
Just something to think about.
Well, here, I want to talk about later on. We're going to talk about who had the room and who was linked to it, and there's a few other weird things that happened. But I did want to go talk about a little bit about Steve's early life, his career, what he did, because I feel like there's some important connections here. He lived in the greater Los Angeles area and owned property, in LA area and kind of North Hollywood, the 70s to the 2000s. He owned like a building company or like a real estate company with his brother for a while. But Paddock was known to be a gambler when he wasn't at work and everything. He was known for being a big gambler. He was all over casinos all the time. He had multiple of the high-end, like players cards, whatever they call them.
Like the high roller club deals? Yeah.
That's probably a good way to look at that. Well, what's interesting, he worked for the IRS. He worked for a defense contract audit agency. He worked as an internal auditor, and he worked for a company that merged with Lockheed Martin. So...
Didn't he also work for the mail service?
Yeah, he worked for the postal service. Yeah.
This explains a few things now.
Well, my thought is more, so his entirety, he's had connections with the government.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not saying everybody that works for DOD has connections. That's what I'm saying. But in order for them to have, I guess, some connections to be able to make some of these things happen, because there's some other stuff coming up that I find a little fishy. Steve Paddock was worth at least about $2 million when he sold off his real estate business, and that dwindled down to about $500,000 by about, just before the shooting, basically. But he purchased an apartment complex, which gave him about $500,000 of annual income by about 2011. So the guy was well off. The guy had money. He knew what he was doing. He made about $5 to $6 million in profits from its sale in 2015. So you're looking at a couple years before, this guy was a multimillionaire. Granted, he gambled away a lot of what he had, but he was well known. Also, I do want to bring up his girlfriend is a little bit of a suspicious subject, girlfriend/wife, because there's a bit of conspiracy theory about that. She happened to be all the time whenever he was moving things around or doing anything suspicious with his bank account or weird wire transfers would happen. She would be away somewhere or traveling somewhere. They wouldn't really be together all that often. That's a whole nother rabbit hole if you guys want to look up at home. But Stephen Paddock's wife and their traveling history, good luck figuring that one out, because that one's all kinds of messed up. But the long story short is that this guy had known enough connections. He had done work for the DOD, done enough work outside of it to where he's not an idiot. He's wealthy. He has the means, and he clearly made some connections. Now, when we're talking about connections, unfortunately, somehow, and this one still baffles me. He somehow has a connection with Saudi Arabia. And this one, I cannot for the life of me figure it out. But when he was there at Mandalay Bay, when he was there at the hotel. He had been seen several times speaking with some Saudi representatives. I guess or I don't know if we want to call them representatives, affiliates, I guess, or whatever, with the Saudi prince. And there's weird things that happened down the street at the Four Seasons Hotel at the same time, which also the Four Seasons Hotel, which occupied the top couple of floors or handful of floors of the Mandalay Bay. How did he know them? Well, very interesting, you might ask. Stephen Paddock had been somewhat known by authorities. It was never definitive until today, not today, but until that day, where he had been moving some stuff around for some people. I am one of those people. I genuinely think this was a gun running deal gone bad. To where what had happened, at least this is all my opinion, is that Mohammed bin Salman, who is a really, really wealthy Saudi prince, happened to be there. And they also own part of the Four Seasons Hotel and a few other hotels in Las Vegas. You would think Las Vegas is owned by mostly Americans. There's actually a lot of foreign entities that own parts, if not suites, in other parts of hotels. You can look that one up as well if you want to go down the Las Vegas rabbit hole. But there was a Saudi prince that was there that was supposed to be at a couple of public events. But also, at the same point, they were traveling with a large force of their own private security. Because, I mean, Mohammed bin Salman, Salman, because there's a Salman. Salman is worth a lot of money. You're talking hundreds of billions.
Oh, yeah. All that oil money that we're giving them.
Oh, yeah. And at the time, they're still buying firearms. They're still buying stuff. They are still trying to get armed, at least for not only their country, but also their forces here. So, to me, it doesn't seem like they would be that crazy that this guy who worked for the DOD has a lot of money, knows how to move some money around, somehow got a hold of all of these firearms and had done these deals before. Or if not, maybe he was the negotiator, maybe he was the guy that was the contractor. I don't know. But it's kind of weird to me that at the same point when all this happened, there were 911 calls up and down the New York Strip, some 4 to 8 blocks away from where it happened, talking about vehicles driving down the street, people shooting outside those vehicles, other 911 calls talking about police chases. There were weird stuff going on. Now, granted, people get a little crazy in groups. Absolutely. When anything happens out in the world, some people panic. They say they'll see a dragon. When really it was just somebody falling off of an ATM machine or something stupid. Like, how some people get.
Oh, yeah.
But what I want to point out is a lot of stuff that we're talking about is a little bit tinfoil hatty. But it's not incorrect, which is crazy. That is probably the craziest part. Now, if you want to go really crazy, do you know anything about the helicopters over Las Vegas?
The ones that do the rides, or
no? Well, okay. So for all airspace, they always have a tracker on it. Basically, you can look and see because they have approved flight plans, so you'll know what is over the airspace over Las Vegas at any time, or really anywhere in the country, basically. But they have to approve it because it's a big area. There's a lot of security concerns, all that. Did you know there was not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but almost 10 different aircraft that 20 minutes before the shooting, their transponders go off and you don't see them until 20, 30 minutes after. You can look that up on the Las Vegas map, by the way.
Interesting.
And this corroborates a couple of other 911 calls about shooting coming from helicopters.
I mean, I know alphabet agencies like to do things like that.
Well, this becomes a question. Now I want to bring it back to the U.S. government, as we spoke about last week. We are known for selling our firearms to other countries.
Mm-hmm.
We are known for doing this kind of crap. How much do you want to bet the U.S. government was in with Stephen Paddock on this to sell firearms to somebody? Maybe it was a trap. Who knows? Maybe we were trying to get this guy. Maybe we were trying to set up something, and things went south really quick. So, what do you do? Because here's the problem. What's the political fallout? What happens if it comes out that the U.S. government just tried to assassinate a Saudi Arabian prince? What kind of war would that lead to? So,
the kind where we don't get oil.
Well, yeah. So what if the alternative is they tell Paddock, like, hey, you were the fall guy. You were going to make millions off this deal. But you also knew the risk, so get to it. It doesn't add up. There's a lot of things here that do not add up.
No. One of the things that I wanted to kind of backtrack and point out.
Yeah.
When you listen to the initial shots, because there are videos, several videos of when the shots rang out over the concert, you heard the chain of bullets, and then you hear the secondary sounds of the echoes.
Yep.
When the police were on scene and trying to get the injured and the other civilians on site out of there were still gunshots coming out. You did not hear the follow-up echoes, but there were still the chain shots. It was still coming out like the belt-fed type firearms. Nothing really changed other than potentially the firearm, potentially the location of the microphone. But it would have only been a few tens of feet.
Yep.
That, for me, was one of the big kind of pickup points, was the fact that the lack of echoes suddenly changed. Just when you were saying that things don't add up. All the evidence that was in the room that were being shown just does not add up. Simply the amount of casings that were left in the room, there are not enough. For the amount of rounds that were claimed to have been fired, yeah, okay, there were a bunch that went outside. Where are they? We don't have any pictures of those.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too much that doesn't add up, and I mean, we still don't know what really happened. That's one of the things that pisses me off a lot.
Well, unfortunately, they would not release the body camera footage from the officers. They would not release a lot of information.
I understand you want to protect the privacy of people that were injured and or canceled from the subscription of life. But they can blur all that out.
Oh, yeah.
So why can we still not see that body cam footage?
Yep.
I mean, how many FOIA requests do we have to start putting in to get that stuff? Like, we know more about the possibility of aliens coming out of the ocean than we know about what happened in Vegas.
And that's what I think drives a lot of the concern, is the fact that, we've had more recent attacks against, assassination attempts against, Donald Trump and other things going on, that we've gotten more information out of some of those.
Oh, yeah.
Than we have from this. And what's insane is this should be slam dunk easy. We know exactly why he did it. We know what happened. They follow the evidence, because nobody does this unless it's either a financial motive or they just literally lost their mind. And unfortunately, there wasn't much evidence. Don't get me wrong. The brother did say he was acting weird, that they were kind of estranged, that they didn't really talk that much, that Steve was a little out there. But there was no evidence that he lost his mind, was on any sort of medication, that wasn't in his right mind, that he suddenly just decided to do this. Especially when, not for nothing, he had a bunch of other firearms and other stuff in his house and different things. It seems weird that out of everything he could have brought, everything he did, he selected a very specific group that really is not really the I don't want to say the best, but not really the appropriate thing to use for that.
Yeah, if you're going to go and do something like that, those were not the ones to pick.
Yeah, and I hate talking like that, but like that's the reality. So it's clear that this, while it might have been an option, was not the premeditated reason for what was done. At least that's my opinion. Because to me, it does not make sense. Absolutely not.
No. And
that's the thing, is how were there people that were not connected that knew what was going to happen? Or it took the police 81 minutes to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and there are people still to this day trying to fight for, the people that unfortunately that passed away and that were affected and that were hurt. The almost 500 people that were affected in total from this. There's still a lot of questions. And there are so many theories about how there were multiple shooters. If you look at different camera angles, you can see muzzle flashes from different areas. Sure, some of those I was able to confirm they were just reflections off windows. Other areas, I don't know. It really depends, because we do have things called flash hiders with some firearms, and depending on if you know what you're doing, like if you have like how snipers kind of operate, where you are set really back and have a wall in front of you, you could basically negate or basically almost be invisible when firing, depending on the flash hider or a suppressor or whatever. And that's the other thing, is they never talked about, what if there were other people from a different vantage point, from a different area. Who really knows? No one will ever know. But it's insane that we have never gotten an official answer. There is no manifesto. There is no reason. There is no motive. And I don't know if we could point to any other of the big mass shootings in this country to where there wasn't a very clear and obvious motive.
Yeah, whether it was like hate crime related, or bullying or something along those lines. They can always be pointed out and said, oh, okay, this is why this happened.
Yeah, most of the time when you get to numbers like that, it's usually terrorism.
Yeah. And
this doesn't even classify as terrorism because there is no real motive. And what's crazy is they looked through Steve Paddock's, they looked through all of his information, his phones, his laptops, everything, and they couldn't find a motive, which leads me to believe there was a motive, but they just don't want to talk about it.
Right. I mean, the FBI released in 2019 their final report saying
which tells us nothing.
Yeah, the only thing it told us was what we already knew. They had the who, the what, the where, the when, and the how. But what they didn't have was the why. The only thing they couldn't ascertain was a clear motive for the reasoning behind the event. That was literally the only thing the FBI could not solve, that they claim.
And considering it was the greatest loss or the greatest act of basically terrorism since 9/11, and you would think we would have put way more resources into it. And
the fact that it just kind of got so much casual interaction from law enforcement and the government was one of the things that kind of tipped me off to like, oh, there's something going on here.
Yeah. That's why I really think it was a government operation to trap somebody or to get someone doing something. Because think about this, you could arrest a foreign national if they were trying to do an illegal arms deal.
Yep.
You could say there is no, it's not like you it's very hard to trap, a foreign dignitary if they get publicly drunk. Because whatever. It's very hard to justify that. But if they're buying illegal firearms or smuggling and things like that, then absolutely you can justify to keep them and interrogate them. And I know I keep pushing it, but after everything I've read and after everything I've seen, I feel like that's the most common or the most logical answer. But we will unfortunately never truly know. And I hope someday we do figure it out. I hope someday the FBI does release and say, hey, this is everything we have. Or especially not for nothing, knowing the people of the internet. Why not leverage the internet and say, hey, if it's been 6 years, we have had literally no advancements on this. Internet, 4chan, do your thing. And they figure it out.
4chan.
4chan, may the autism guide you. Just
little.
But I swear, the crap they'd be able to figure out on that website is insane.
Well, weren't they the ones responsible for the Boston Marathon thing getting solved?
Yeah. Well, not only that, but the when somebody put a camera out in the middle of nowhere, they were able to reference the sky and the planets to figure out, oh yeah, it's this constellation at this time. And they were able to retroactively then figure out to geolocate where a camera was some out in the desert.
Shia LaBeouf. Yes, I remember that incident. That was hilarious.
Yeah, which, I'll be honest, to a normal person, I'm sitting there thinking, how in the hell does somebody think to figure that out? And they had to map it over the course of days to figure it out within a kilometer. Hey, it's here. Who the hell does? But that was just some random person on 4chan that had a couple hours of their time and decided to do it.
That was someone who lives in their parents' basement that has literally nothing better to do with their time.
Yeah, that's true. You're not wrong. But I think someday that's going to come out, and I bet you we're not going to be happy about it.
Probably not. Maybe by the time it comes out, it won't matter anymore.
Well, unfortunately, this was used as a very big anti-firearm thing.
Yeah.
That's really what it boiled down to. Unfortunately, the mainstream media, really all media, spent more time talking about how they should get rid of the Second Amendment rather than discussing what actually happened and why it happened and what went on. Because within a couple of weeks, they stopped asking questions.
Uh-huh.
And they started saying, all right, we got to ban this, we got to ban that, got to do this. Like, well, but that's not going to, unfortunately, stop the next one.
Yeah.
And as we have seen, moving forward, well, there hasn't been anything as big like that. Smaller attacks have been more common. So, hate to say it, but it's clearly not a firearm problem, but a mental health / terrorism problem.
Yeah. Yep. You can't ban the scary black rifles and magically make it all go away. No. Our buddy Dave, we've had this discussion before, and something that he said kind of stuck with me. And it kind of circles back to what I said earlier. If I could snap my fingers and get rid of every single firearm on the planet in one go, I would do it. However, it wouldn't change a single thing, because people still want to kill people. They want to hurt people. They want to threaten people. Whether they do it with a gun, a knife, a hammer, a kinetic energistic device, I don't want to say the other words, they will find a way. I mean, look at Oklahoma City. That was a big event. No firearms were used there. The 93 World Trade Center attack.
Yep.
No firearms were used there.
That was the fertilizer one, right?
Both of those were.
Was that it's both, yeah.
There are ways to affect a lot of damage and destruction and loss of life without using firearms, and those events proved it.
Mm-hmm.
People will find a way. Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, life will find a way. So will death.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? But, hopefully going forward, people understand these things. And as we've learned from, like the recent fires and everything else going on, the weirdness around the world.
The fires out in California. Yeah, did you see the satellite imagery of 3 of those starting at the exact same time?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. There's more going on than we know.
Yeah, that's not weird at all.
And well, I want to do an episode about Maui and the California fires.
Yeah, speaking of Maui,
and the lakes.
Speaking of Maui, I don't think you mentioned that.
Yeah,
the chief, was he the sheriff chief or the
commissioner?
Chief of police?
The commissioner
of Las Vegas Police Department. Yeah, not weird at all. But the police commissioner from Las Vegas, who was the person in command during the Vegas shooting, just so happened to get moved to Maui. And he was also the same person in charge when the Maui space laser fire event happened.
When the Maui fire started. I cannot confirm
or deny.
It was space lasers. I cannot deny it. But Maui, a significant portion of Maui burned down.
Yes. Just
and
not the places with the blue buildings.
No,
or the blue roofs.
But
we got to do an episode on that.
Oh, well, I want to do a combined Maui and now California, because now we have enough data to show that it's getting weird.
Maybe tie in the hurricanes.
Well, I want to also touch on the fact that for some reason the Biden administration wants to cover up to 100% of the damages.
Oh, I was just about to bring this
up. Only for LA.
Yeah.
So if you're in North Carolina, you can just go F yourself because we're not going to help you at all. And also Maui, you get a $750 loan for your house burning down because the government was inept. But if you're in California, because you're the wealthy and you're the celebrities, don't worry, the government will pay. No.
We got you.
No. That. Also, by the way, shout out to the insurance company who's run by a, I can't use the word on here, but if your children get cancer, I will not shed a tear. The fact that they canceled the fire insurance for these houses
2 months prior.
Yes. And for thousands of them, just said Allstate and a few of the companies are like, yeah, we just don't feel like covering that anymore. After the first time a fire goes out. And by the way, these same fires are happening on the almost exact same places. They want to put in a new rail infrastructure and do the new project for Project LA 2028.
Did these people learn nothing from the Luigi incident?
I know. Release the Luigi. Like, I hate to say it.
I knew I was going to yell, so I had to scoot back a little bit. I didn't want to blow out anyone's earballs. I apologize if I did.
They have learned nothing. And,
I understand why people do the things they do. Okay? I do not condone the response that was done. I understand it, though. And the people that run these companies really have to open their eyes and pay attention more. Because when they do some bullshit like this, other bullshit happens. I just said people will find a fucking way. God, it pisses me off.
Well, I don't find it any coincidence that within a few months of several major house insurance companies canceling the fire insurance for tens of thousands
so
of people.
Happens to be a major fire. Yeah. What a coinky dink.
And they somehow run out of the water.
Most over half the water in California is owned by one rich couple.
Yep.
And I should have pulled it up, but I didn't think about it.
No, but yeah, it's owned by a private company. And of the 40% that they have, the person that was responsible for running several of the reservoirs, they were all mostly dry. Yeah. They didn't do anything.
They operate it's the winter. Paper water.
They're not even in a drought right now. It's the winter time. So how have they not figured out how to collect water, especially when, not for nothing, but aren't they next to
a very large lake water? Or something?
Something like has
the Pacific Pond or something like that.
The Pacific Ocean? I don't know how to say it. The Pacific Ocean. Oh, Pacific Ocean. That's right. The next to a bunch of fucking water. I don't know how they have aircraft and helicopters that can't use salt water.
Now, I understand the issue of dropping salt water on a fire. However, I feel like the issues of salt and the issues of cleaning up the salt are secondary to the loss of life and property.
If I have a choice between no water or salt water to put out a fire,
I'm taking the salt water.
I'm not going to sit there and go, I could use the salt water, but I'm too lazy and I don't want to clean up the salt, so I'm just going to not do it. No, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. Why wouldn't they have hey, if we run out of fresh water, just use the salt water. It sucks. We'll have to clean up the vehicles. We'll have to clean up the helicopters and everything. It's going to suck, but we'll deal with that later. Let's focus on saving people's lives and saving the houses. Because not to be an asshole, but that's kind of your job.
It's California, kids. They don't think like that. They're not sure about which pronoun the fire uses.
Jesus. I felt bad. I was watching earlier. Do you know Bitwit on YouTube?
Yeah.
So his house.
Oh no.
Was there. And I have to give Kyle from Bitwit some credit because he was able to be very positive about the whole thing, but watching him go to his house where his family lives and everything, where he's a tech YouTuber, says a bunch of high-end equipment and everything he had worked for up until that point was gone.
Oh wow.
And thankfully he has 3 to 4 million subs, so he has money where he can come back. Yeah. But you can't replace the memories, you can't replace the house.
No.
Almost everything they had was gone. Besides, they did happen to drive his car somewhere, so they had his car. but all of everything from like his office keys were totally melted.
Oh, shit.
Almost all the documents. Weirdly enough, his diploma somehow survived fully intact, like the red diploma and everything. It didn't have a mark on it. I don't know what they made it out of. Freaking stellinium or something. I don't know. There's some crazy metal that just doesn't burn.
Mithril.
Yeah. But I've watched so many videos of all these people that I'm lucky with where I live that I don't have to worry about something like that.
Right.
But just the mass destruction, the fact that I watch police yelling and screaming at people to get out of their own homes. It's like, it's a danger. You can't be there. Get the hell out. It's like, this was my house, asshole. Like, I'm trying to get my stuff. Don't tell me I can't be my own property. I understand they're worried about people looting, but also not to be the jerk. What are you gonna loot?
You want to loot some ashes and some like scrap?
That's about it. What I found interesting too is they did not cut off the gas supply in certain areas. So they had plumbing companies running around house to house, having to manually shut off the gas. Wow. Which I thought that would have been kind of smart to just like shut off the main for at least that street or for that area.
It's California. I'm surprised there was still gas flowing.
You're right. I just imagine if they had all been the battery powered homes and they were blowing up.
Oh God, the lithium fires.
Well, that's my other problem. I know we're getting way off topic today, but
we have to edit the name of the episode at this point.
Yeah, the Mandalay Bay shooting and other bullshit. But I would be worried about with lithium powered homes where eventually, imagine if you have a casual 2 to 3 tons of lithium in your house that goes up like a fucking thing of fireworks.
You know what? It'll be pretty.
Yeah, it'd be nice watching my house burn down like that, you know? Are we going to have to go back to building houses out of concrete? That way they can survive these fires? It's not for nothing. Like, bricks have always worked. I saw a couple of photos of some houses that were made entirely of bricks. Mm-hmm. They were pretty much fine.
Yeah.
It was a show. Sometimes the older methods are the best methods.
I like my house. It's made of brick.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about anything. Well, they're also far away enough from people that like...
Oh, yeah. Dude, when I bought my house, it was a very strategic buy. I am ready for disasters. I am ready for the zombie apocalypse. Most of my neighbors are old. I am good. Okay.
You are king shit of Turd Mountain over there. You are all set. I'm actually very much a similar situation, even though I'm a little bit more urban. But I am on the top of the hill, and I'm kind of king of this hill. Mm-hmm. So I have no worries.
Yeah.
And I have solar, so I'm decently well.
Yeah. Solar's on the list.
But yeah, at some point when the prices come down, you know. But anyways, back to the original discussion. So with the Mandalay Bay shooting, what I wanted to discuss with everybody and what I wanted to bring up is I know last week we were talking about the government's always lying to you, or at least the government is lying to you. This is one of those cases where, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I think the government is also lying to us on this one, or at least they're not telling us all the information. We have not heard enough of the data to be able to understand really the motive, even why, even the timelines for when the police officers got there are still a little weird, and EMS and everything else. I would say,
I feel like this is more of there's just a lot more they're not telling us versus they're outright lying. Not to say they're not lying. I fully believe they are, but I still feel like there's a significant amount that they're just not telling us, hands down.
A lie by omission type of thing.
Yes.
Where, yeah. As well as what I wanted to encourage everybody, every listener to do, is to go look up some of the resources that we're going to post in the Discord, as well as look up the Vegas shooting map.
Also, I would like to encourage listeners to actually join the Discord so you can see this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. You can see the memes and other stuff we post.
It's lonely in there.
I know. We got to get some more people over there.
We've got one awesome listener so far.
Hell yeah.
Shout out Super Grover.
Hell yeah. Our first, I'll probably give him like a different title or something just because he was the first.
He was the first.
But he was the number one. He was number one. He's Smitty Warben Jaegerman Jensen. I'm going to give him his own role. That's it.
There's
done.
the role.
I'll be doing that. I'll be giving him that. But no, I'm very active on Discord. So if anyone ever joins there, I check it constantly.
Same here.
So if people have questions and want to ask stuff, do whatever, that's definitely the place to be at. yeah, I think we covered most everything. I know today was a little bit more tinfoil hatty than
usual, but you know.
I felt like after last week's.
We are not a conspiracy podcast, but we will dance that line like a toddler dances on its mother's last nerve.
Well, I think after last week's assault of the facts, I felt like today was kind of nice to pull it back a little, you know? Let the mind roam free.
We violated the state of the facts like a date gone wrong.
I know. But it was a good one. Don't worry, there will be an update to that list because there's plenty more.
Oh, yes.
No idea. But all right, I think, did we have any last thoughts on this one?
No. Join the socials, hit us up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, since I guess the TikTok ban is going through, so unfortunately I made the TikTok for no reason.
I did not hear that.
Oh, you don't know about that?
No, I knew they were trying.
No, TikTok said unless the Supreme Court gets involved, unless they overturn it on, I think, the 19th, they're done.
Of this month?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I've noticed because my algorithm's all over the place and it's showing me stuff from last year. So
that's kind of cool.
It's been going weird for me. So I feel like TikTok's going to be going. So there's already other platforms that are going to be popping up in place of it.
Okay.
But that means definitely, you know, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have our Discord, and eventually whatever that TikTok replaces or gets replaced by TikTok, we'll have it there as well.
Do you want to mention what I had asked you about earlier today? That platform?
I don't remember which platform.
The purple icon platform.
Oh, I mean, we can.
Okay. So
we can definitely do Twitch.
We are kind of tossing back and forth the idea of doing a Twitch channel just to see how it goes. So we would love some feedback to see if anybody would like to possibly interact with us live. It'll either be a Twitch or possibly even a YouTube live deal.
Yeah.
I think
we could do either very easily.
Yeah.
And we can even do both, by the way, because there is a website that we send it to there, then it distributes both. So
yeah,
we could do a simulcast if we wanted to.
Yeah. But I think we would maybe like a little more listenership before we do that, but definitely would love some feedback.
Yeah, definitely let us know what everyone thinks. We really appreciate all the comments. Definitely appreciate all the feedback. And yeah, anything else before we close it out?
No. Again, happy birthday to the sun. Absolutely. And thank you as always for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for being here, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Hell yeah. See you then.